Should be live now. Just wanted to hop on this video because I was just having a conversation with a friend and I titled this Why Genuine Relationships Matter, because that's what we were just talking about. We were talking about why do genuine relationships matter? And I was just saying, like, it seems so obvious, right? Like everyone wants a real genuine relationship. But then it just dawned on me, most people want a genuine relationship, or what they deem a genuine relationship, what they call a genuine relationship is not a real genuine relationship. Most people, what they want out of a relationship is to get a feeling. Most people want to feel good. They want to feel like they are um, getting something, right? They want to feel like they are uh, happy because of it, or loved, or whatever the case is, right? They're doing it out of trying to garner some kind of feeling. But a real genuine relationship isn't for a feeling. A real genuine relationship is really acknowledging others around you as an extension of you, and not, ooh, oh, this is good. This is good. Because most people, they see themselves with a sort of feeling of like, they see themselves as less. Most people see themselves not as everything that they could be. Let's just be honest about it, right? If you were seeing yourself as everything that you could be, you would not be treating yourself or those around you the way that you do, or treating life itself, treating, your existence the way that you do. And the evidence of that is like a lot of people will hang out with other people that don't treat them well, but they call them their friends. And they're like, oh, they do this thing, but we're friends. We've been friends for a long time, or whatever. There's like all these aspects about, the other that they're talking about that they don't like, but they tolerate. And it's because they tolerate it within themselves. Man, here's the thing with relationships. With relationships, they're a reflection of what you accept and allow within yourself, what you are doing within yourself. And so if your relationships are essentially not what you want them to be, if there's a lot of problems within your relationships, guess what? You got a lot of problems within you, which sounds terrible, right? But there's a good thing. There's a good thing about it, is that you can actually observe those things that are going on within you, and you can change them. You can actually do something about it. I remember a long time ago, there was a day where I had looked at myself in the mirror and I realized I did not like who I was. It's just an all of a sudden realization of like, oh my God, I don't like me. And I felt in that moment terrible. I felt depressed. I felt like, what is going on? Like, what am I going to do? But then the next day, I remember feeling like, oh, I can do something about this. I don't have, like, there are things, those are things that I do. Those are habits that I've picked up, that I've allowed myself to do. I can change those things. And then I started changing those things. And then I realized like, oh, wow, I can be the kind of person that I want to be, the kind of person that I like. And not only that, I can actually I examine based on, okay, what is it that I want? So I see what I don't want. I see what I don't like about myself. Well, how do I actually want to be? Okay, well, I want to do this, this, and this. Okay, how can I start implementing that in my life right now? That's an example with just myself. Why? How does that relate to relationships? Well, it's the same thing in your relationships. If there are things going on in your relationships that you don't like, it's an opportunity to take a step back and look at yourself and go, okay, how am I doing that within myself? And a lot of people don't like doing this. A lot of people will just immediately say, well, I'm not doing that. You'll look at a situation going on in your relationships and you'll go, well, I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing. But what you'll actually find is, on some level, if you're really self-honest with yourself, you'll see, oh, I'm allowing this in this sphere. So maybe you're not doing it to yourself per se, but maybe you might be doing that with your business. Like if you feel like your friends are always abandoning you, or ignoring you, or something like that, right? Maybe you're doing that not to yourself per se, but maybe to this business venture that you said you really wanted to get going and that's really supposed to be important to you, but yet you keep putting it off. You keep ignoring it. You get other things that are more important than that, and you're like, oh, I'll get to it later, right? That's what you're allowing within that. And so it's really great to have genuine relationships. It's great to have relationships in general, right? Because you have that opportunity to really look at it if you're self-honest with yourself. However, it's even better to have real, genuine relationships, because a real, genuine relationship is, hey, look, I'm on my path. I'm on the way here. Do you want to go there too? Yes? Great. Let's support each other to do that. That's a real, genuine relationship, right? It's not, hey, I'm having fun. You're having fun. Let's come together. And when we have fun, and then that's it. And then when we don't have fun, we separate and we're not together. That's not a real, genuine relationship. I was talking with someone last week or over the weekend, and he said something pretty cool. He was talking about how he used to smoke weed, and he noticed that when he was doing that his friends were all fair weather friends, right? They were all friends that just only wanted to hang out when he was doing that. They didn't want to hang out any other time. They didn't want to support him for any other thing. It was just, hit me up because I want to hang out and smoke, versus, how are things going? Or like, hey, do you want to just like go, I don't know, build something together, or have a real talk about anything, right? The interesting thing is that even if you don't partake in stuff like that, which I don't, and you shouldn't, and if you do, something to look at, right? But even if you don't do that, we're still doing that on some level where it's not a drug per se, but it's a high. It's like the drug of like feeling good around someone, right? This is how most people have their relationships, where it's just, this person makes me feel this way, or every time I hang out with this person, I'm looking for this experience. And then as soon as you don't have that experience anymore, then we start going, nah, I don't like you anymore. And it's actually a terrible way if you want to eventually have kids, or have a family of any sort, or have like a real partnership that lasts. It's a terrible way to train yourself for that. Now, I'm not suggesting by any means to get into a relationship and stay in a relationship that is abusive or anything like that, right? But there's a difference between recognizing like an abusive relationship, or recognizing something that's going to harm you, and there's a difference between that and just giving up and not even working through it, not having resolve, not actually coming to an agreement together. Because if you are stable and you've made an agreement with someone, you have a relationship based on agreements rather than just based on feelings, then it's much more clear when you come back to the starting point of your relationship, of like when you're having those moments where things seem to be butting heads, it's much more clear to come back to, here's what we agreed to. Are we both holding up to our agreement? Are we both supporting each other within this agreement? It's very clear to see where you are or you aren't. And then you have the opportunity to go, okay, here's what I need to change in order to hold up to my end of that agreement, or here's what the other person needs to change in order to hold up to their part of the agreement. And you can have that conversation because you've started your relationship based on agreement of here's what's important, here's where we're going, here's what we need to maintain this, rather than a relationship that's just based on a feeling, which can change with a whim. And the reason why I say this is really important to train yourself for if you want a family, because you can't just bail on your children, right? And people do that. People do that, but it's not acceptable, right? It's very detrimental to the children, isn't it? But that's also based on the same premise of I got into this relationship, or I'm having this kid, and when I feel good, I'm around them, and when I don't feel good or I feel like I need to do something else, I separate from them, right? And I see that as being like a huge factor in just the world at large right now. A lot of kids are being brought up in a situation that's not best. It's not ideal, right? Everyone wants both of their parents to be around, right? But there are more and more kids being born in situations where they only get to see one parent, right? And there's a lot of different factors involved in that. But this starting point of having, first off, starting your relationship based on an agreement, and second off, having the resolve to say, hey, look, when things get tough, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's look at the facts. We're not just going to shout at each other, yell, or whatever, and separate, but rather let's, come clear on this and say, okay, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going, here's where we said we wanted to go, and here's how we can get back on track to that. Will you uphold your end? Because I'm going to uphold my end. And if you can't do that, it's probably because you never saw an example of that, or you didn't get good training on that for yourself, or good discipline for yourself. But every moment and every relationship is an opportunity to do that. And if you don't have someone that you can do that with, if you talk to somebody and you're like, hey, this sounds like a cool idea, why don't we do this? And they're like, nah, I don't want to do that. And you can't find anyone to do that with. I would suggest, join this self-perfected group. Right? I put a hashtag in here that says self-perfected, but if you go on Facebook and you just type in to groups, self-perfected, you'll see this group where there's hundreds of people who are willing to do this, who are willing to create real, genuine, lasting relationships, because we've all agreed to the same principles. And the principles are just treat your neighbor as you would yourself. It's basic things that, we say nice in society, like the golden rule and everything, but we are actually holding ourselves accountable to that. And then open to, hey, look, here's a point where, you didn't do that. And someone calls you out and you say, oh, thanks for pointing that out to me. Here's what I can do to correct it. And then we make the corrections, we keep going, right? So if that's something that you'd like to have, like a real genuine relationship, a real taste of that, if you haven't had that already, or if you can't find somebody in your immediate vicinity to do that with, to come to an agreement and say, look, no matter what, I'm sticking to this principle, not for the other person, but really for yourself, right? To stick to doing what's best for all, or treating your neighbor as you want to be treated, right? That should be a principle that you just have just for yourself, right? It should be something that you agree to for yourself, not because you're coerced into agreeing to it, or because you think other people might find that nice or whatever, but because it's something of how you want to live by, right? And then if that's something that you want to live by, who cares if the other person agrees to it or doesn't agree to it, right? Because it's something that you've made a decision for yourself. I'm going to live by this, and I'm looking for other people who want to live by this principle as well, right? And I'm telling you, you look up Self-Perfected and join us, or just take a look at it even, you'll see that there are principles that we choose for ourselves to live by. And you can meet other people who have also chosen for themselves. And if you also agree with those principles, hey, look, you've got a whole community right there. So that's it for today. See you guys later.